What we also want to take a look at is what happens if you've got a hybrid cloud environment. I've got on-prem infrastructure, I have public cloud infrastructure, and I want to be able to leverage the strength of that combination. And for that, we're going to look at VMware Cloud on AWS, accelerating your journey as to how you really leverage a hybrid cloud. Once again, we're going to do this by looking at a demo. Could we kick off the demo, please? So, as you've heard, more and more we're seeing most companies being in this situation where they've got on-prem infrastructure and public cloud infrastructure. And this is an example of where we want to leverage the capabilities of the cloud, but in close relationship to our on-prem infrastructure. And we're going to do this to handle disaster recovery for the on-prem infrastructure. If there's a failure, we want the cloud infrastructure to be able to take over and run those workloads. What you're seeing here is a familiar screen to you, which is the vSphere client. We're looking at 2 data centers, one in New York, one in Tokyo. We're already showing that the New York data center has failed. However, let's not panic. It is protected by VMware Site Recovery. If we look at VMware Site Recovery, it says if New York fails, fail it over into cluster 1 over on VMC on AWS. 505 VMs have been moved over to cluster 1 on VMC on AWS. Let's take a look at AWS and see what's happening over there. What you see here are these 2 clusters, and the one we're focused on is cluster 1. Essentially, this is now where the New York data center is running. It has moved those VMs over there onto that data center. Remember, because this is a true hybrid cloud, the actual VMs do not need to be converted or anything like that. They're the same VMs, just moved over now on your VMware infrastructure on Amazon. You can see we've got about 8 hosts there. You probably didn't notice it, but back on the New York data center, there was approximately about 10 hosts. So roughly the same amount of infrastructure being used. What I want to do now, however, is go back and take a look at that infrastructure on the Tokyo data center. Very similar to what we have in New York. A number of hosts, about 500 virtual machines, roughly the same size as the workloads we had running in New York. And once again, this is protected by site recovery. This time, it will fail over to cluster 2 if a failure should occur. Now, in this case, we're protecting this and failing over to that same AWS region. You probably wouldn't do that if it's New York and Tokyo, but for the purpose of example, it's going to come into this cluster 2. Now let's take a look at this cluster 2. 2 things I want you to notice here. First of all, it's a relatively small cluster. It's got 3 hosts, but it's got a lot of storage. And that's because it takes advantage of a new feature, which is the ability to back vSAN by EBS storage over on AWS. And we call this elastic vSAN, an easy way for you to build up lots of storage but still maintain the concepts, the management concepts associated with vSAN in that mix. The other thing is it's only got 3 hosts. Now, if you recall, that data center in Tokyo had 10 hosts. If that data center should fail, there is not enough compute capacity here to be able to support the infrastructure, the applications coming over from the Tokyo data center. And this is where a cool new feature kicks in. And this feature is elastic DRS. What elastic DRS will do is it will automatically instantiate and bring new hosts into the cluster as the workload demands it. So as that Tokyo data center fails over in response to a problem at that data center, elastic DRS will continue to dynamically grow this cluster to meet the demands of the workloads coming in from Tokyo. Now, there's a real cost saving associated with that because you only pay for those hosts if and when you need them after the failover has occurred.